Hi, and welcome to another episode of Inspiring Business. My name is Mark Bullock. I'm the co-founder of PhoneBlogger.net, VideoSocials.net, and Video Interview Podcast Services, where we facilitate marketing services and systems for professional service firms, including attorneys, financial professionals, coaches, and consultants. Every episode, I interview business thought leaders who make a difference in the world through their services, products, or ideas. You can find the show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and more. Today, my guest is Judi Otton, and I'm very excited to have her with me today because we're going to be discussing her role as a fractional CFO. Welcome, Judi.
Thanks, Mark. I'm happy to be here.
And so, for those of us that may not know what a fractional CFO is, I'd love for you to just tell us what that is, who you are, and how you got into being a fractional CFO.
Sure, happy to. A fractional CFO is someone that works part-time with a business as their chief financial officer. Most small businesses, and my definition of small business is typically between $1 and about $20 million. They don't need a full-time CFO along with the big paycheck that comes, but they all can benefit from having someone help them with the forward-looking strategic financial planning. Most of us have bookkeepers or accountants that tell us what happened last month, last quarter, last year. I'm focused on next month, next quarter, next year.
Got it. So basically, you answered a question that I hadn't even asked, which is really the context of the difference between a bookkeeper, a CPA, and a financial officer or financial consultant, as it were, because I think a lot of people, realize, oh, I need a CPA, but
Sure.
as you say, I need to do my bookkeeping, obviously, but I need a CPA, and they end up stopping there, right?
Yeah.
And CPAs are not designed, the entire field is not designed to make recommendations and engage with you from a strategic point of view of where you're going and how you're going to get there and how your finances tie into that. So,
Yeah, I have a lot of business owners come to me after they've grown, they've gone through a growth spurt, and all of a sudden they find they're making the same money or less money than they were making when they were smaller. Things get more complicated. It's harder to keep track of everything. You certainly do have extra costs involved as you grow. And without some planning and some forward thinking, it's a common trap that business owners fall into.
Excellent, which I think leads into one of the main questions I want to talk to you about is, what is your purpose, right? Why do you do this? How did you get into it? Why did you do it? And I think part of that has to do with financial literacy, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So many business owners, all business owners, they're great at what they're great at. They're fabulous architects or lawyers or marketers or whatever. They know their trade really well. But unless you have a finance degree or maybe an MBA, you probably don't have the financial skills that you really need. Nobody really teaches it. I mean, schools now are starting to teach a little personal financial literacy, but business financial literacy can be even more complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated. And one of the things that I try very hard to do is talk to all of my clients in plain English. No jargon, no complicated terms, in ways that they can understand.
Excellent. So you're trying to help people to not only be able to forecast and engage and use what's happened in the past, of course,
Yeah.
but use that as to how do I springboard to move forward and start to develop a roadmap, as it were, to where I want to go and how I want to get there.
Absolutely. And I come in and I'm hands-on and I will work with the business owners on their plans. while teaching them also. My goal is never to stay forever. I love teaching my business owners what they need to know to act as their own CFO.
Excellent. Excellent. Because it's not just, here, let me come in and let you create a dependency on having me here forevermore. This is let me teach you the understanding of why we do this and how we do this, so that you have it in your toolkit, so that you can carry that information forward for this business and or the next, right? So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
excellent.
And of course, they can call me when they get stuck, and they can call me when they have problems, and they can call me as things get more complicated. But I really want to clean up their infrastructure and their financial planning, teach them what they need to know, set them free to thrive, and go on to the next mess.
Excellent. So, which brings me to really kind of the purpose of this podcast, which is having to do with business owners that are conscious. They're socially conscious, they're financially conscious, they're world conscious, in that they're trying to make a difference in some way, shape, or form. And we were talking earlier about, there's so many people that they do want to make a difference. They do want to help their clients. They want to help their customers. They want to have a positive impact to the world around them. But if they have that mindset, there's something that seems to get in the way. And is it okay to really do well, to really be financially successful and make a difference?
Yeah.
What's your
Yeah.
perspective on that?
There's with a lot of heart-centered business owners, there is some feeling that money is evil and money is dirty and money is bad, but it's not. There are good people at all levels of income doing good things with their money, whether it's through building a business that is environmentally sensitive, or whether it's straight up philanthropy. Sorry, I'm stuttering over that word. But there are lots of ways that we can do good with our money, and money on its own is neither good or evil. It's just, it's just something flowing to you. It's how you use it and what you do with it. So I work with a lot of business owners that not only want to do good things in the world for their clients and the environment and their community and their people, but also are very committed to doing well themselves. And they can and they do both.
And so how do you help somebody that may not have gotten to that point, that they realize it's okay to do well, doing good?
Yeah.
I imagine that you need to help them with their mindset, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the work that I advertise and the work that I say I do is really focused on the financial processes and budgeting and cash flow forecasting and all of that stuff. But I also, with almost every single client, talk to them about their limiting beliefs and what I see going on. And sometimes just shining a light on it is enough for them to see, oh, I do have a little resistance to making certain amounts of money. And we all have these thresholds. I do too. I can make this amount of money, and that's great. But something above that feels a little uncomfortable to me. We all have this stuff. And every one of us human beings has these issues around money. And it's so much easier for me to see your issues than for you to see your issues, or for me to see my own issues. So while the bulk of my work is around traditional financial stuff, I do work with my clients to work through some of those limiting beliefs.
Excellent. And I know that you have kind of a sweet spot, for who's your ideal client.
Yeah.
What kind of level are they? What
You
are they
mentioned
focused
it.
on?
I do love working with the conscious businesses. I love working with a business owner that, yes, of course, they want to make a buck. They want to be very successful, and they want to do good things, again, for their community, for their employees, for their clients. It's just a lot more fun. And frankly, I feel like if you're just out there looking to make money and don't really care about anyone else, you're not going to be that successful anyway. I had someone come to me early on that wanted me to teach him how to, as he put it, butter his books. And I don't think I had really found myself and found my niche at that point. It was very, very early on in this business, but I immediately had a visceral reaction like, oh, heck no, this is not what I want to be doing with my life. So I'm glad I was smart enough to turn him down. And there's a lot in between that, people that are just trying to make a living, and that's okay. That's fine if that's what you're doing. It's not that much fun for me. And I'm all about having fun while I do this too. So I've gotten very involved in the conscious capitalism movement. I do find that those are the kinds of business owners that come to me. They're very good at their business. They're very smart. They know their area of expertise very well, and they want to get better at the financial stuff.
Absolutely. So within that realm, I think you had mentioned that it might be 1 million, it might be 20 million, something like that they're doing. Do you have or see, are these basically privately held businesses? I'm assuming that, right? And what happens when somebody is in a partnership or it's a family business and the various people don't necessarily agree how best to manage the finances moving forward? How do you deal with that kind of circumstance? And do you have experience with helping people with that?
That can be tough. And I have worked with partners. Fortunately, all the partners that I've worked with, I think, have been on the same page. But I've worked in some family businesses where they're not necessarily on the same page. And it's tricky. You have to be able to have open and honest and really candid conversations with all the parties involved.
Right.
And they can be challenging, but the benefits are really there. It's worth trying to get through these conversations and trying to get to a mutual understanding, at least about, which initiatives we might undertake. Maybe we're not all on the same page about how much we want to do for our community, but which initiatives can we agree on and how can we move in that direction a little bit.
Got it. And you also have a bit of a niche, I think a soft spot for those that are just starting out. Because I know that you've created a series of videos that are specifically for those that are just getting started. How do people find that, and what have you included in that?
Yeah, I have a series of videos for brand new business owners, and I can give you the link to the playlist. They're on YouTube. GrowthCast, GrowthCast Cash is my YouTube channel. And I do occasionally take on a smaller business as a pro bono client. I've worked with a few last year, and I have some spots for business owners this year. I'm also working to develop something that scales a little bit better for business owners so they can start on the right foot. They can start understanding things like their profit margins on different projects or products, understanding how to read their balance sheet and what to be paying attention to with respect to that, understanding how to manage their cash flow, because all of that will help you build a healthier business from the start. So right now, most of my work is with the, over $1 million, and there's some wiggle room in that. That's not a hard and fast deadline, not a hard and fast criteria.
Right.
But I am working on something for the smaller guys too, because they need the help just as much as anyone else.
Well, and what I think we find, this is my 5th company, so there's a plethora of information out there. It's just a matter of, but what is appropriate to me? And I got to be honest with you, I can't just sit down and read a book, right? On accounting or a balance sheet or something like that. It's just,
Yeah.
So, I have to say, I really appreciate the fact that you are and have been creating content in short snippets, 2 or 3 minute tips and ideas that really help not only with the mindset, but also some very practical kind of tips moving forward. And I'm really pleased to hear that you're working on taking that kind of to the next level to build that bridge between somebody that really could take you on as an ongoing resource for themselves, um, which they frankly may not be able to afford yet, right?
Sure.
But
Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
that is also giving them not just, go read this book, go
Yeah.
take this course, go right to
And
business people from start to finish. I got to tell you, you're going to be crazy busy, right? Because you're either crazy busy trying to build it, or you're crazy busy trying to manage it, or you're crazy busy trying to keep it from falling off a cliff, right? So
yeah. And
it's
so much of that content can be so dry. I mean, I don't think I could sit down and read an accounting book these days. So I try and keep it, as you mentioned, short, sweet, direct, and a little fun and a little personable, and definitely, as I mentioned before, plain English, layman's terms.
absolutely. So you had mentioned it was GrowthCast Cash, I think you said was your YouTube channel.
Yeah, don't quote me on that. I'll give you a link for the show
Okay,
notes.
so we'll include that link. I imagine you have a website.
I do. It's GrowthCast. It's growth-cast.com. And I'm also very active on LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you do, just mention that you saw me on the show. I do get a lot of unsolicited LinkedIn or sales pitches on LinkedIn. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it helps. I'm happy to connect.
Excellent. So, are those the primary ways to kind of get more
Yes.
information about you and consume? Excellent. So
Yes. Those are the best places to learn about me.
great. And do you have within that, because I know that this isn't the first time that you've been interviewed on a podcast. So is there within your website or within your YouTube channel a means by which for them to find other places that you've been interviewed and
On my website,
engaged?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do have a page with other interviews and presentations I've done. I have my first live speaking engagement in 2 years on Friday. I'm so excited.
Excellent.
I'm at the Entrepreneur Innovation Awards in Connecticut
Ah,
Friday, which is very exciting, and some cool companies, some of the coolest entrepreneurial companies in Connecticut.
excellent. Well, and that brings a question. So are you geographically set up, or do you have the ability to, to do
Yeah.
virtual work? How do you work? Where are your
Yeah,
clients?
great question. So before the pandemic, all of my clients were in the Northeast because that's where my network was. I've had clients in the city. I had a client in northern New Jersey, and I would go and visit them once a month. Since the pandemic, with the exception of one company, I worked with a manufacturer for about 18 months, and I was on site there because they're a manufacturer, and I was needed to be there.
Right.
But for the most part, I can work with anyone anywhere in the US. I'm domestically based.
Hmm.
I talked with a company from California last week. I don't, there weren't really a great fit. I don't think they'll proceed forward, but it doesn't matter where they are. We're doing so much, this way, Zoom, remote, as long as I can get access to your financials. Yeah, it's fine.
It's it's
It's
it's a,
it's opened up so much.
it's that's a separate topic all in and of itself. But the reality, as many people know, first of all, you're a member of Video Socials. I'm the co-founder of Video Socials, and so we have a lot of business owners, a lot of people that are using it to create these short 2-3 minute videos that help educate and inform and provide literacy for various businesses and et cetera. But when we first started, one of our biggest issues was getting people that had never had any experience with video conferencing, didn't know what Zoom was or Skype or and those types of things. Actually, getting them on and getting them to be able to be in the environment and realize that it's just like being in a room with others physically. It's just that you're on camera,
Yeah,
and so,
honestly, in some ways it's easier. If I'm working with a client and I want to bring up an Excel spreadsheet, then maybe I want to bring up a product that we might be looking at integrating into their system. It's so much easier to do it this way as opposed to cuddling around my laptop or me fumbling on their systems. Yeah, it's really, I honestly kind of like working this way. I don't waste a lot of time commuting or driving back and forth to clients. So it's really efficient. But I will go where I need to go.
right, right, and it's if there's a positive that I think has come out of this global pandemic, this catastrophe as it has been for many of us, it is the ability and the understanding that we can be very effective as even at the highest levels of whatever consulting, coaching, law, whatever it is, that we can do that just as effectively, if not more effectively, in the fact that exactly as you said, we're not spending hours commuting, driving around, et cetera, going into a foreign environment, and trying to meld ourselves into that environment, and with so many of our online tools now, sharing documents, being able to collaborate on documents, obviously things like QuickBooks or other accounting systems, being able to basically work live in multiple locations at the same time. I think it is the one big positive it is transforming businesses to be able to and frankly, it's more environmentally friendly.
Sure is.
We're not.
It sure is. Yeah.
We're not using public transportation. We're not using personal transportation. We're not driving our cars around to all these places, burning gas, getting it's adding to traffic congestion, et cetera, et cetera. So, from that perspective, I think it's wonderful, and I'm glad that you've been able to embrace that and that's working for you, right? So,
yes.
Excellent. So one of the things that I talk about on this show is inspiration, right? So what was your inspiration for doing this, and how do you transfer that inspiration to those that you work with?
Yeah. So I apologize. You asked me this initially. I wound up here accidentally. I owned a company before this. We did software and hardware development, consulting firms. So we did software and hardware development for big companies like Pitney Bowes, Canberra, ASML, really large companies. Mm-hmm. And we had a staff. We had W-2 employees, software programmers, engineers, very senior folks that were paid very well. Mm-hmm. So as we were growing, we pay our employees every 2 weeks like you do with W-2s. But our clients, those big companies, they may have payment terms up to 90 days. So ASML, for example, we grew very much when we were working with them. Their payment terms were 75 days. So every time we added a person, we had to float their salary for 2.5 months, essentially, before we started getting the money in for them. So cash flow was a big deal. And we got to one of those points where we said, oh, shoot, how are we going to make payroll this week? We had one client where the numbers on their PO were transposed. So the PO got stuck in their mechanism. Big companies have these big bureaucratic mechanisms to get paid. The PO had gotten stuck and we hadn't gotten paid for a few months. And my bad, I wasn't paying enough attention to it. So I built myself a cash flow forecasting tool that saved my butt more times than I can count after that. Once
Right.
burned, I only made that mistake once. So I left that company the end of 2012. My partner and I wanted to do different things, very amicable. We still love and see each other regularly. And I rebuilt this cash flow forecasting app for small business owners. Now, every financial person said, oh my God, every business owner needs this. But honestly, the business owners, as you mentioned earlier, they're busy. They don't want to learn and maintain another piece of software.
Absolutely.
So it really didn't take off. I had about 50 clients at my peak. But they needed help. My clients needed help, and I needed to pay my mortgage. So I started doing a little consulting. I started doing budgets for my clients and some cash flow. I would do the cash flow forecasting for them using the
Right.
tool, and realized that they needed more help. They needed help figuring out how to be more profitable. They needed help figuring out how to cut costs in certain areas. They needed help figuring out what is the right percentage to be spending on payroll for my type of business. So I started doing more and more with them, and I absolutely love it. I love getting in there and helping them clean up their messes. I love learning the nuances of their business because, the math on a P&L is the same.
Right.
It's the same calculations, but every business, like every human being, has nuances about it. And that's fascinating to me. So I'm where I am. I think it's where I was supposed to be all along. It's so funny how, the roads that we travel to get here, because I really didn't ever expect to be a consultant like I am. But I really, really enjoy it. And I really feel like I make a huge difference for my clients.
Well, it's just excellent, Judy. And just as we're wrapping up, I just wanted to bring up, you're doing what needs to be done. And what I mean
Exactly.
by that, what I mean by that is, yes, you're making a difference for the people that you're working with, or the people that are hiring you and engaging you. But you're also making a difference for those that are just trying to learn, that are just trying to get started through the fact that you are creating content. You do have a resources page on your web. You are publishing, and you are out there, not from a perspective of trying to constantly push features and benefits and ROIs of working with you, but you're actually giving away valuable content and information for others. And which leads me back to, what are we and what are we doing? So we are Practice Marketing Incorporated, my business partner Vic and I, and we created it from a standpoint of helping our clients at that time get the content out there that was informational, that was educational, and that made a difference for those that would consume that content. And in doing so, they would build themselves as a branded expert, so that when it was the right time for people that were consuming that content to work with that client, it was a natural progression to, let's these people know what they're doing. This person has made a difference for me in just the content that they've made available for me for free. Let me start working with them. So that's authentic word of mouth, kind of marketing. So, and now we're building an entire ecosystem that's not only text, because we originally started with Phone Blogger, which was an editor would call an interview and we transcribe and we turn that into a written blog article, and then audio, and then video, and video socials is the first big step into that. And I know that you've been a member for a while, and you do an absolutely fantastic job, and absolutely look forward to every time that you're in a meeting and recording. But our next level is to take people that want to now get something a little more substantive, that want to have a longer form, and that's our VIP service, which allows people to to do podcasts and video interviews and live streams and things like that. And we can help with the logistics and the setting that all up and the scheduling of guests and all of that kind of stuff. So really it's forming into an entire ecosystem of, at the core, people that are trying to make a difference. And in the process of making that difference, they're using that in their marketing, they're using that in their outreach to the world through social media, newsletters, or whatever the case may be, as you're doing, right? So anyway, the call to action from my side is have a look at Video Socials, videosocials.net, and click on the guest tab if you have an interest in learning how to and engaging with creating short videos that are video blogs and or videos for your websites, things like that. And if you are, and we also have videosocials.net/VIP services, which is if you're already comfortable on camera, you're already doing that kind of stuff, and you're looking to take the next level and do live streams, video podcasts, these types of things. You've given us your information as far as, and we're going to have links that are attached to this, to your website, to your YouTube channel. And is there anything, Judi, that you'd like to say in closing, or that you
Yeah, I have a couple things. With respect to Video Socials, if you're thinking about it, do it. One of the things that Mark didn't mention is that it's a lot of fun. The little tagline that we say during our meetings is fun and done. And it really is. And also for me, if you have questions, send me your questions. I'm always looking for new topics for my Video Socials recordings. So whether through LinkedIn or my website, there's a contact form. Send me any financial questions you have, and I'll do a video about it.
Wonderful. Judi, thank you so much. I was excited to meet with you and have this conversation, and I know even more about you and what you're up to, and what inspires you, and I'm sure inspires your clients.
Thank you, Mark. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Terrific. Again, I'm Mark Bullock, the co-founder of videosocials.net and of phoneblogger.net and VIP services. Have a great day, everybody.